Hello, and welcome back to the Marketer's Guide to the AI Galaxy. I'm Mara.
And I'm Joya, and though it can be really hard to believe, we are at the end of season 3 already.
Season 3, yeah, season 3, the Mythbusting season, which is the season where we became the people who walk into rooms and go, no, actually, that isn't how AI works. Like the party guests no one asked for.
And also the most necessary party guest because this year was definitely a lot for AI. Between AI will steal your job and AI is dead, we basically lived inside a pendulum swing.
And that is exactly why season 3 existed, because while so much seemed to be about, here's the one correct narrative about AI, for us, it was, let's clear away the noise so people can make real decisions.
So, for this episode, let's recap the myths that we tackled because there were definitely some big ones.
Yes, and I think the one to start with, because it was probably one of the biggest and one of the ones that caused the most debate, was the MIT stat from the summer, which said 95% of corporate Gen AI projects fail, which of course people took away to mean AI doesn't work.
Right. Except the weird part is that actual usage among the public is higher than ever. So everyone says that AI is useless while secretly using it for everything from meal plans to job applications.
Yes, and yeah, and therapy and everything else in between.
Exactly.
For us, it was really about pulling apart these myths one by one. So I think one is, and Joy, I'm sure yeah, we've talked about this a lot. Like AI isn't actually intelligent, which
Right.
yes, that is true, and that is why people need to use their own judgment and not think that they can outsource their thinking to Chat GPT and ilk.
Then it's that also that discussion that AI quote unquote is making us dumber. And our counter argument is it can actually sharpen your thinking if you can use it critically. So that's important distinction to make.
Yes, yeah, 100%. And I think again, like where the nuance comes in is AI will take all the jobs. And one of the things that also when we spoke at the Thames Valley AI Summit, we really focused on is the fact that businesses like Klarna literally rehired the humans they replaced because again, I think it really comes down to the question isn't can AI do this, but it's does AI doing this actually improve anything? And again, this really shows how important it is for businesses to adopt AI responsibly and with a plan from the start.
Right. And then we also got models are getting dumber. And our response to that is that models don't only move in neat upward lines, they shift, they reroute, they evolve. And so it's really important to diversify early.
Yes, and then I think overall, if there was one big takeaway, it was stop chasing AI for miracles. Like, it's not
Yes.
magic. Stop asking what prompt. And again, I'm sure you get asked this a lot too, Joya, when it's just like, oh, tell me what prompt should I use? What prompts
Right.
should I use? No, you're asking the wrong questions. Instead, really start asking, what am I actually trying to get done here? And how can AI help?
Absolutely. And now because we're heading into season 4, which we're really excited, we realize we've actually, Mara and I have been on our own little journey. And, it's been quite the journey, right?
Yeah, so it's been, yeah, 4 years of doing the podcast, of course, especially in Joya's case, being active in the AI space before ChatGPT even existed. So we pretty much started season 1 as an experiment in the era of, like, explain AI to me like I'm 5, but I'm also a marketer who knows they need to know more about AI because everyone started talking about AI and says so, yeah, get how can we get in there early and really start to understand it?
Exactly. Season 1 was our foundation year. We were talking about what a model is, what training means, why sometimes it says nonsense confidently, and honestly, a lot of that matters. And also, season 1, we wanted to break down terms from both a B2B and B2C perspective. So that was really important for us to see how from my industry, a B2B industry, how we perceived it and how Mara from a B2C perspective, how they would view AI and certain terms that were emerging and whatnot. So The mistakes have definitely changed, but the principles at the end of the day haven't.
Yeah, I think it's just still yeah, AI still says things with confident nonsense, but at the same time, I think it's
Exactly.
important to acknowledge how much the tools have just changed since we started, which again is something we'll get into later. Also, definitely be topic of season 4 is the whole like AI and think yeah, what is real anymore in the age of AI? What's real? What's an AI picture? Thank you, Nano Banana. But before all that, we had season 2, which was very much our translation year. So that was us breaking down AI news for marketers. So the whole thing of like, what's going on? What does it actually mean? ChatGPT, whatever has launched. Here's some actual business implications to also keep people from drowning in announcement and giving them that context that a lot of the times the news don't have. And I think still don't have a lot of the time.
Right, and with all of that, with season 3, we zoomed out even further, and so not only what is happening, but how to think about how to make sense of what exactly is happening.
Yeah, and I mean, we called it AI myth busting, which a large part of it is, and which is something I think that we've, in a sense, we've always been doing from the start, but, and are definitely going to continue it. But yeah, for season 4, there's going to be a twist. But across all the seasons, I think, yeah, Joy, I don't know how you feel about it, but I think one of the key things we learned is that when it comes to AI adoption, and the limiting factors aren't the AI itself. It's really whether people understand their own businesses and not just their own businesses, but their own jobs well enough to use the tools properly.
I can't agree enough with that, and I think a lot of failed pilots isn't really because AI undelivered. I think it's also, AI probably exposes vulnerabilities or, not flaws, but
Sometimes
it's
flaws,
it's
like
sometimes flaws, right? So I think that it just if you have a workflow that is not really optimized well, I think without AI just definitely magnifies it and it puts a magnifying lens on that and then it just scales it even further. So exactly what you said. I don't think it's necessarily the tools. It's maybe yeah, our sometimes limited understanding of how our own systems work.
yes,
So
and
yeah.
I think so, and the tools as well sometimes, because again, there's a lot of news, things change every day. So yeah, but I think to get into that, should we talk a little bit about the Thames Valley AI Summit back in
Yes.
September? Because I think it was getting our presentation, like getting ready for that, where it really clicked for us.
Yeah, it was a very exciting conference that we spoke at, the inaugural Thames Valley AI Summit back in September. And we spoke right after a keynote to an audience full of policy people, business leaders, and those that are generally curious.
Yeah, and I think what we really talk about were that like tension between those two realities that we're living in. Because on the one side, the kind of frontier labs, so whether that's OpenAI, Anthropic, but also Google, moving at lightning speed with all their AI releases. And that's what we talked about again in season 2 all the time. Like this happened, that happened. But on the other hand, so many organizations are still stuck on where do we even start? Or in the case of those like 95% of failed Gen AI projects, like what did we do? Where did we go wrong?
Right. And that gap between the two worlds is now widening and continues to widen.
Mhm.
And leaders, they read about these breakthroughs and then they immediately fall behind or feel that they're falling behind. So they run these pilots in panic and then those pilots tend to fail.
Yeah. So for all of that, we have hopefully fairly simple argument, which is, but yeah, sometimes trickier to implement than you might think, which is don't start with the tool, start with the work, which leads us to what we want to do in wrapping up season 3, but also introducing season 4.
Drum roll, please. Season 4. So, season 4, after kind of looking back at our past 3 seasons, we really want to focus on something that we're calling functional AI literacy.
Yes, yeah. So it's not like, again, that whole thing of like, how do I write the right prompt? Which specific tool should I buy? But really, like, how do I evaluate claims, especially of specific vendors? How do I pick where AI fits? And how do I know what to ignore, but also what matters?
Exactly. And so We believe that the entire season, it's gonna be designed around one belief, and that is if you can understand thoroughly your own processes and workflows, you will be able to use AI well. And if you cannot, then sadly, no model will be able to save you.
Yes, yeah. So it's really comes down to teaching people and businesses three things. So I think the first one is like really getting to know your own workflows, not
Right.
work flaws, because you can't optimize what you've never mapped. Maybe also the work flaws.
Where yes.
And I think that's where that whole thing really comes in of like, yeah, how can or how you can't use AI, which comes down to the second part, and that is where it is about AI because you need to know what today's tools actually do, what they can do, what they can't do. And this is, yeah, again, like what are the overstated claims versus what are the real capabilities. And that I think comes to the third one, which is really knowing how to evaluate claims because if vendors will promise the moon or just not just vendors, but I think also so many self-proclaimed AI experts who promise to solve all your problems with AI in one afternoon in one in one fancy workshop. I think it's with AI literacy that you can really tell the difference between what's useful and useless and what's risky and what's hype driven.
And it's important and for this we're also going to address the human side, how to build skills, how to create small experiments, how to reduce fear, which is really important, and how to choose when not to use AI because we've said this so many times in our past seasons that AI is it's not a, one size fits all solution. It's not a magic wand. So we're going to keep emphasizing that point because it is important to um, kind of internalize.
100%. I think again, like a lot of kind of what you're saying is a lot of the time I feel like the discussion on AI has become like really moralistic, like, oh, you're a horrible person if you use AI. Don't you know this, don't you that? And I think again, what we need to bear in mind is that like AI in itself is completely neutral. As of course, the system comes with biases, but the technology itself is neutral. And we've reached the point where I don't use AI isn't a moral stance. So much of it just comes down to understanding.
Right, absolutely. So, season 4, it's going to be definitely hands on. Expect workshops, tear down episodes, before and after, workflow examples, real life case studies, and also we have some exciting guests that will join us. So, we're very
Yes,
excited for that.
telling us about AI implementation. And again, the whole thing of like what worked, what didn't work from the front lines. Because
Yes.
yeah, we're gonna be we want it because like those failures can also teach us a lot more than the success stories all over LinkedIn where everything works all the time and AI solves every problem or AI is the most evil thing that was ever invented.
Right. So we are definitely going to keep the myth busting energy. That's not going anywhere. And it's not in the sense of debunking headlines, but more so debunking internal assumptions.
Yeah, and I think again that's really what it comes down to because like literacy is empowerment and it gives we're here to give people a stable point of view on the landscape as it keeps shifting between hype and doom. And again, for us it's really into getting to the mindset of from AI is overwhelming to AI is another tool in my toolkit. So yeah, really excited to wrap up season 3, start season 4.
So for all our listeners, viewers, thank you for continuing to join us in this journey. We're still learning, Mara and I. It's a AI obviously is a very fascinating world, but we're here to make it easier to understand for the everyday marketer, business leader, and just the genuinely curious AI enthusiast. So stay tuned for season 4, which will come out early next year, 2026. It's going to be a good year.
Yeah, thanks for listening and yeah, see you in 26.
See you 26.